Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It is Tuesday, March 4th. So today I have cardiac rehab, so me is probably going to try to kill me again. So what's today's video on? Today's video on is perfection. What is perfection and why do we strive for it? And it's going to totally relate to business and repairs and everything else in your life. So stay tuned. Alrighty, welcome back. My name is Eric, if you didn't already know it. And yes, this is the weekday, Monday through Friday. Today is Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. So what are we talking about today? I'm talking about, like, yesterday I was able to sit down and do 2 videos. But what you don't realize is I started trying to do it Friday. Yeah. And I tried to sit down and do it over the weekend. And I just couldn't pull it together and make it the way it should be made so that it looks like I actually know somewhat of what I'm doing. In all honesty, we're learning together. I made a post on Facebook this morning about having to relearn everything all over again. And that's the way I feel. It got to be very easy of being in front of the camera, in front of you guys. And enjoying our morning talks and connecting and having an understanding, of where each of us are. But that all changed on the 13th, during the wee hours of the morning as a surgical team tried to save my life, which they did. But it changed, it made things more difficult. And when I say more difficult, I'm saying the things that were easy before, I'm relearning. And at first, I did a lot of pushback because I felt like I couldn't do it. And I know a lot of you guys have come to those points at times where you just say, I can't do it. But yet somehow you regroup yourself and somehow do it, right? Why? Because it's important enough to us to want to come back and keep trying until we can finally rejoice in saying we did it, right? And that's the direction of the channel. I mean, you guys have been very instrumental in my healing process. You've put up with me when trying to hold sentences and thoughts and just kind of hung in there. And you guys know who you are. But not only have you hung in there, you've been my biggest cheerleaders. And when it came to doing the rewind video yesterday, that rewind video started Friday, and then Saturday, and then Sunday. And for whatever reason, I kept screwing it up. But every time I did it and screwed up, I changed how I did it until I could accomplish tasks along the way. Of just getting the string in, of just taking the thing apart and putting the string in and putting it back together. And to many of you that have been a mechanic for a lot of years, you could do that with your eyes closed. I used to be able to do it pretty easy, but it was very challenging to try to get it done. And as simple as the task is, I started to believe that I could accomplish it. But yet somehow I pulled it all together and finally was able to do the video. The same thing when it came to using the wire feed. We're learning together. And I've always been a farmer's welder. I grew up farming and stick welding, and I never cared how it looked. All I cared was the frickin' thing would stay together. And that was my goal. You know, Claude is much better at welding than I am, and he's been doing it more the last couple of years. I have what I call my other son, which would be my son's future brother-in-law. We've had him here since he was 12, 13, hunting with us. And he's become my other son. And he's a certified state welder. He can do stainless, aluminum, and his welds are perfect. He does everything the right way. So if I get into a situation where I needed things to be as perfect as possible, I call him in. Because that's what he does. And that's what he's learned, and that's what he's put his heart and soul into, is doing outstanding welding, right? But even he had to start somewhere, right? And if you've never used a wire feed welder, it's so much easier than a stick. You don't have to keep stopping like you do with the stick welder, where as you run out, you have to throw that away, put a new one on, and continue on. With a wire feed, as long as you have wire in that unit, you can still keep welding. But the key is getting flux core wire so that you can continuously weld. You can get argon for those. And my bigger set is set up for argon. But that's TIG welding, and we don't see a need in the shop to have to be able to TIG weld. We're able to do what welding we need to do with a conventional stick or just a conventional wire feed flux core wire. You have to start somewhere. You can buy these units now on eBay or Harbor Freight for $100 or so. I mean, that's a lot of money. I get it. But, and then buy the wire. The wire is probably more expensive than anything, right? But the more you sit down and do it, the better you become. And I think it was you, Amos, that used to teach just basic welding when you were in the service. That's where I'm at. I've never strived to be a great welder. Could I be? Yeah, if I put my time in. But that's where it all lies when it comes to repairing stuff, whether it be welding, whether it be fixing a rewind, whether it be what have you. It all depends upon your willingness to want to learn. If you want to learn something, you're willing to put the time in, right? And if you put the time in, you'll get to be really good at it. And then you do enough rewinds and make enough mistakes along the way, which you will. I make them all the time. Next thing you know, you're the resident expert on how to fix a rewind, right? The same thing with welding, but welding is a little different. And what do I mean by a little different? I mean, it's the best way to learn how to weld is from someone that knows how to really weld and keep the slag cleaned up, how to puddle it right, how to move that puddle down through and keep it in a rolling motion versus just welding yourself. Learning how to hold and maintain on a wire feed takes a little practice. But the more you do it, the better you get, right? Stick welding is pretty much similar, but you have to start out farther away And as you're welding, you're getting closer and closer as you're melting and puddling up that weld as you're working down through it. Each one ends up at the same point, right? That you have a weld that's solid and holds. But yet each one is different. And even when you break it down, I talk about whether you're welding on a deck or you're welding on a frame or you're welding on quarter-inch steel. Each one of them has a different temperature setting that you need to learn. And how do you learn that? It's by burning holes through a piece of metal because you got the unit too hot. It's coming in too hot, and it's going to burn a hole right through the deck because it's too thin. So you have to learn that you need to turn that down until such time as it puddles up on the deck where you've taken and ground it down so that you got good contact. And it's a nice smooth thing. But the next time you go to weld a deck, you're going to remember, right? I had it set at 120 or 130 and it did great. I may have to adjust it to 125, 126, but I already know where the range I need to be in instead of starting out too hot or it not getting enough contact to even start. Comes from practice. Now, in saying that, I've seen a lot of people do it a lot of times and not do it the right way and continue doing it because no one has taken the time to show them anything other than that. So if you want to become really good at it, you need to, whether you're watching YouTube videos, listening to me, which you probably shouldn't if you want to be an expert, or getting with someone that has been welding for years and does know how to really weld and keep the slag cleaned up, have the right consistent temperature, the right hand-arm position as they're going down through. And that rod, if they're stick welding, is just an extension of their hand. If that wire feed is just an extension and it's holding it at the right distance and learning to get the right speed, the feed of how fast that wire is coming out and the correct temperature is how you get better. And there's nothing wrong with writing it in a little notebook that you carry with you that, okay, most decks require the heat to be at this range and the wire speed to be at this speed, or my stick welder needs to be at this certain heat range, and what rod am I going to use to accomplish it? If you write it down, at least I do, by writing it down somehow helps remember. If I just try to remember, I can't do it. But if I can look to my notes a couple times, I start to remember those things. Practice gets you closer to doing it the right way. So, talking about doing it the right way, that's the other thing I wanted to bring up today, and most of you that are just casual viewers have already kicked off. So this is to my regulars. What do you want to see when it comes to the videos? I'm trying to do a little bit of everything, but I really could use your feedback. The topics that you want to hear about. Mark, you were very instrumental in a lot of the episodes because you wanted to learn about certain aspects of business because you're looking at getting into it. What can I do to help you? Whether it's the business side, the financial side, the repair side, tool side, you know, how can I help you guys? Because it's all about with me is trying to give back for all the help you've been to me. If I know the direction you guys want to see it go, where you get the most out of it, I'll concentrate on those areas. If not, you're just going to listen to me ramble on about nothing, which I'm very good at, by the way. So I'm going to start wrapping things up. Again, the best way to become good at things is to practice, to do them over again, and to learn the correct way from practicing. So on that note, you guys have a great Tuesday, and let me know in the comments what direction you want to see and what would you like me to bring up that I can kind of give back to you guys. So on that note, you guys enjoy your day, and thanks so much for watching.